Listen to me very carefully. You are not broken. You were never weak. You were just never shown the door. The door that leads to a version of yourself that nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, can disturb. Right now, in this very moment, something is eating at you. Maybe it's a memory that won't let go. Maybe it's a person whose words cut deeper than they should. Maybe it's a fear that shadows you like a second skin. You've tried everything. You've fought it, you've run from it, you've numbed it. But it's still there. That tightness in your chest. That quiet anger behind your eyes. But what if I told you that across history, there were individuals, not gods, not myths, but flesh and blood human beings, who walked through hell itself and came out the other side completely intact? Not because they were emotionless. Not because they were cold or detached. But because they had discovered something most people go their entire lives without ever knowing. They had discovered the complete mastery of the self. I'm not here to give you motivation. Motivation is a drug. It hits, it fades, and you need another hit. What I'm about to give you is architecture. The blueprint for building a mind so impenetrable that life's arrows simply bounce off. 10 ancient keys that the wisest minds in human history used to become psychologically invincible. If you've ever wanted to stop being a puppet to your emotions, stop crumbling under the weight of others' opinions, stop lying awake at night replaying conversations that are long over, then I need you to listen. Not casually. Not while scrolling. Listen like your life depends on it. Because the version of you that exists 40 minutes from now, that person is not the one who started this video. Subscribe. Not for me. For the person you're about to become. Because transformation is not a future event, it's a present decision. Let's begin. Imagine being owned. Not metaphorically, literally. Your body, your time, your very existence, belonging to someone else. That was the reality of a man named Epictetus. He was a slave in ancient Rome. His master, a brutal man named Epictetus, once decided to test him. He twisted Epictetus's leg, applying pressure, wanting to see him break. Wanting to hear him scream. Epictetus didn't flinch. He looked at his master calmly and said, "If you keep going, you will break it." The master continued. The leg snapped. And Epictetus simply said, "Did I not tell you that you would break it?" No rage. No tears. No begging. How? How does a human being stand in that moment and remain untouched? Because Epictetus had something that chains could never reach. He had an inner fortress. A purpose that lived entirely within himself. He once wrote, "Seek not that events should happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will have peace." Here's what most people get wrong about purpose. They think purpose is about a destination, a career, a house, a status. But Epictetus is teaching us something far deeper. Purpose isn't where you're going. Purpose is the lens through which you see every single moment. When your purpose is anchored not in results but in the person you are choosing to become, no outcome can destroy you. No failure can define you. No betrayal can break you. Because none of those things touch your core. Think of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. The most powerful man on earth. And yet, he wrote his private journal not for applause, but to remind himself daily, return to your purpose. Return to your values. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Every single day, you are either drifting or anchoring. The chaos of the world is either pulling you off course or finding no grip on you at all. The difference is this, a firm, internal, unbreakable sense of who you are and what you stand for. Find that. Write it down. Return to it every morning. That is your fortress. Once it's built, nothing enters without your permission. In ancient times, every great city had a wall. And in that wall, a gate. And at that gate, a guard. Not to keep people in, to control what came in. Your mind is exactly that city. And right now, for most people, the gates are wide open. Every insult hurled at you, enters. Every anxiety-inducing headline, enters. Every carefully curated image on social media designed to make you feel inadequate, enters. And then you wonder why you feel like you're under siege. Like life is a battlefield and you're losing. Marcus Aurelius, a man who governed an empire while fighting wars, while managing treachery, while dealing with people who actively wanted him dead, wrote this: "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." The Stoics understood something that neuroscience is only now beginning to catch up to: your thoughts are not you. They are weather. They pass through. The question is, do you let every storm set up residence in your mind, or do you observe it and let it move on? When a thought enters that disturbs your peace, don't fight it. Fighting a thought gives it power. Instead, observe it. Name it. This is fear. This is anger. This is the need for approval. Then ask, does acting on this thought serve my purpose? Does it align with who I have chosen to be? If not, release it. Not violently, the way you'd open your hand and let a bird fly free. Seneca, the philosopher who advised emperors, once wrote, "Everything is alien to us, only time is truly ours." If time is the only thing that truly belongs to you, then what you allow to occupy that time, what you allow inside your mind, is the most important decision you will ever make. Guard the gate. In 65 AD, the Emperor Nero ordered Seneca, his former mentor, to die. Seneca was given hours to live. His friends wept around him. But Seneca looked at them gently and said, "What is this? Where are your philosophies? What good has all your study done you if you cannot handle this?" He sat down, opened his veins, and spent his final moments dictating philosophy. That is a man who had been attacked, criticized, falsely accused, politically destroyed, and yet, none of it ever touched his essential self. How? Because he had mastered what I call the art of turning arrows into fuel, the ability to transform what people throw at you into something useful. Epictetus taught this directly. He said, if someone speaks badly of you, don't defend yourself. If they speak truth, correct yourself. If they speak lies, laugh. Read that again. Epictetus isn't being sarcastic. He's being profound. When criticism arrives, instead of defending yourself, use it as an audit. Is there truth here? Mine it. Extract it. Use it to grow. Is there no truth here? Then it's not about you at all. It's about the person delivering it, their fear, their projection, their unresolved failures wearing your name as a mask. Either way, you win. Either you become better, or you remain completely unmoved. But here's the deeper lesson. The reason criticism destroys most people isn't the words themselves. It's that most people have no internal standard for self-worth. They outsource their value to whoever is speaking loudest about them at any moment. The Stoic solution is ruthless. Build your own standard. Evaluate yourself against it every day, and then let the rest of the world say whatever it wishes. You are not a democracy. You are a sovereign. Act like one. Someone wrongs you, betrays you, humiliates you. The pain is real, I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But Marcus Aurelius, a man who was betrayed, mocked, and undermined by people he trusted, wrote something that has survived 2,000 years for a reason: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't a coping mechanism. This is a complete reorientation of reality. The Stoics believed, and they believed this with the force of a philosophical law, that no external event has meaning until your mind assigns it meaning. When someone offends you, they have not damaged your character, your intelligence, your worth. They have made sounds with their mouth or actions with their body. The offense itself only exists if you construct it inside yourself. This isn't minimizing what happened. This is recognizing where real power lives. Here's what the Stoic does when offended: pause. Create space between the stimulus and the response. Even 2 seconds. That space is where your freedom lives. Then ask, what is the most powerful way I can respond? Not the most emotionally satisfying. The most powerful. Epictetus wrote, men are disturbed not by things, but by the opinions they hold about things. The offense didn't come from them. It came from you meeting their action with a specific interpretation. Change the interpretation, and the offense dissolves. What if this person is doing the best they can with what they know? What if this painful situation is actually redirecting you towards something better? What if the wound is trying to show you something about yourself that needed to be seen? This isn't passive. This is the most active, disciplined, courageous work a human being can do. To transform what happens to you into what serves you. Seneca wrote to his friend, retreat into yourself as much as you can. Not to hide, to examine. Fear and shame. Those are the two most powerful invisible prisons ever constructed. Most people live their entire lives inside them without ever questioning the walls. Here's the Stoic truth about fear. Fear is not a signal that something is dangerous. Fear is a signal that you have assigned power to something outside yourself. When you're afraid of rejection, you've decided that another person's assessment of you is more important than your own. When you're afraid of failure, you've decided that outcomes matter more than character. When you're afraid of death, you've decided that losing time is worse than wasting it. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he also wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worth living for." The Stoics practiced something called memento mori, the active contemplation of death. Not morbidly, strategically. When you sit with the reality that this life is finite, the small humiliations lose their weight. The fear of what someone thinks of you becomes almost absurd against the backdrop of your own mortality. You were going to die anyway. Why spend the time between now and then in a prison built from other people's opinions? And shame is even more insidious. Because shame tells you that you are the problem, not the action, you. The Stoic answer to shame is this: you are not your past actions. You are your present choices. Every single moment is a new trial. The jury is never fixed. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Wipe out the imagination. Stop being pulled by the strings. Confine yourself to the present." The shame releases when you stop defending who you were and commit completely to who you are becoming. Not gradually, now. In this moment. This will sound strange. But stay with me. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, they would deliberately visualize what could go wrong that day. Not to live in dread. To make dread irrelevant. Seneca wrote, "The mind is never more active than when it has prepared itself for danger." And, what we fear most is what we have least prepared for. When you have already experienced the worst outcome in your mind, it loses its ability to shock you. When you've already rehearsed loss, actual loss becomes manageable. When you've already felt failure in your imagination, real failure becomes survivable. The modern mind runs from this. We're trained to visualize success, think positively, attract good outcomes. And that has produced an entire generation of people who shatter the moment reality doesn't cooperate. The Stoic is the opposite. The Stoic has already been to the bottom of the valley in their mind, and has already climbed back out. So when life takes them there in reality, they're not panicking. They're walking a familiar path. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every day. He faced wars, plagues, the death of his children, betrayal by his closest advisors. He had prepared for all of it, not with optimism, with clear-eyed, rational courage. He wrote, "You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." Practice this tonight. Before you sleep, ask yourself, what could go wrong tomorrow? What is the worst realistic outcome? Then sit with it. Don't flinch. Don't run. Stay in the discomfort until it passes. Because a mind that has already walked through fire is a mind that fire cannot burn. Two men face the same storm. One is shattered. One is forged. What's the difference? Not the storm. The storm is identical. The difference is the response. Epictetus wrote, and this is perhaps the most quoted line in all of Stoic philosophy, and it's quoted that often because nothing has ever replaced it: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This isn't a platitude. This is a description of how reality actually works. Every event in your life is morally neutral until your response gives it meaning and direction. A job loss isn't a tragedy. Your response to the job loss determines whether it becomes a tragedy or a turning point. A health diagnosis isn't a sentence. Your response to that diagnosis writes the rest of the story. A broken relationship isn't the end. Your response to that ending determines who you become next. The Stoics had a word for the discipline of response: prohairesis. The capacity to make deliberate choices about your inner life. Epictetus said this is the only truly free thing a human being possesses. Everything else, your body, your reputation, your wealth, your relationships, can be taken. But your prohairesis, your power of response, belongs to you completely. No exceptions. The next time something triggers you, pause. Not for 30 seconds. For 2 seconds. That's all you need. In those 2 seconds ask, who do I choose to be right now? Not who do I feel like being. Not what does my anger want. Not what would satisfy my ego. Who do I choose to be? That question is the entire practice. Everything else follows from your answer. This is the foundation, the bedrock beneath everything. Epictetus opened his handbook with these words: "Some things are in our control and others not." Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, reputation, command, and in one word, whatever are not our own actions. Read those two categories again. What is in your control? What you think, what you pursue, what you value, how you act. What is not in your control? Everything else. Every single thing else. The suffering in most human lives can be traced directly to this one misunderstanding. People spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control things that were never theirs to control. You cannot control whether someone loves you back. You cannot control whether your work is recognized. You cannot control whether the economy crashes, or the diagnosis comes, or the flight is delayed. You can control your response to all of it, every time, without exception. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This realization isn't resignation, it's liberation. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up every ounce of energy you've been wasting and pour it into the only arena where you are truly sovereign, your own mind, your own character, your own choices. The Stoic doesn't become passive. The Stoic becomes precise. Instead of fighting everything, you direct your force exactly where it matters. This is what makes a Stoic terrifying in the best possible sense. They are not scattered across 1,000 concerns. They are completely focused on the one thing that counts. Decide today. What is actually in your control? Pour everything into that. Let everything else pass. That single shift, if you make it real, will change the shape of your life. This principle confuses people, and I understand why. When the Stoics said, "Live according to nature," they didn't mean go sleep in the woods. They meant something far more radical. They meant live in accordance with your nature as a rational, social, purposeful being. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that human beings are unique in the natural world because we can reason. We can step back from our instincts and choose a higher response. That capacity, that is our nature. To live against that nature is to live in misery. When you react with pure animal rage, you're living against your nature. When you allow fear to make every decision, you're living against your nature. When you abandon your values for comfort or approval, you're living against your nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. And, do not indulge in dreams of what you do not have." To live in accordance with nature is to live fully inside what is real, what is now, what is actually yours to engage with. Not the past, which is sealed. Not the future, which is uncertain. The present moment, this breath, this choice, this response. Seneca wrote, "While we delay, life passes." How much of your life has passed while you were mentally elsewhere? Replaying arguments, pre-living future disasters, waiting for the right moment to become the person you know you should be. The Stoic principle here is almost brutal in its clarity. You are not waiting. You are wasting. Every moment you aren't living in accordance with your rational, purposeful nature is a moment gone forever. Come back. Come all the way back. To this moment. To this choice. To this life. That is what it means to live in accordance with nature. And it is harder, and more beautiful, than anything else I know. This is where we arrive. The final principle. And it's not a technique. It's a destination. The philosopher Pierre Hadot, who spent his life studying Marcus Aurelius, gave a name to the central achievement of Stoic philosophy. He called it the inner sanctuary. A sanctuary is a fortress within a fortress. The last refuge. The place that cannot be taken even when everything outside has fallen. Marcus Aurelius described it this way: "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." This is the ultimate promise of Stoicism. And I want you to hear it clearly. There is a place inside you that cannot be touched, cannot be shaken, cannot be reached by any person, any circumstance, any loss, any failure, any diagnosis, any betrayal. It exists. It has always existed. You just haven't found it yet. Every principle in this video is a step toward that place. Every time you guard your mind, you're building the walls. Every time you choose your response, you're fortifying the gate. Every time you practice premeditatio malorum, you're drilling the soldiers. Every time you release what you cannot control, you're clearing the surrounding terrain of the clutter that makes you vulnerable. And one day, after enough practice, after enough real application of these principles in real moments of real pain, you will find it. That silence at the center of the storm. That stillness that doesn't leave when the chaos arrives. That you that cannot be reduced by anything the world does. Epictetus, the man who was a slave, who had his leg broken, who had nothing, said this: "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." He rejoiced. A slave, a man with a broken leg, a man who owned nothing. He rejoiced because he had found the only thing that cannot be taken, and so can you. Not someday. Through the practice you begin today. The inner sanctuary is not built in a moment. It's built in moments, exactly like this one. When you choose to pause instead of react. When you choose purpose over approval. When you choose to see clearly instead of feeling blindly. When you choose to be the author of your response. Every single time. Every one of those choices is a brick. And you have been laying them for the last hour. The world will not stop testing you. People will not stop disappointing you. Life will not stop surprising you with things you didn't plan for and didn't want. But none of that matters anymore. Not in the way it used to. Because now you understand something most people will never understand. The storm isn't the problem. Your relationship to the storm is the problem. And that relationship is entirely, completely, 100% within your power to change. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and wrote in his private journal, never meant to be read by anyone else, these words: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He realized it. Epictetus realized it as a slave. Seneca realized it in the hours before his death. Now it's your turn. If this video reached something real in you, if even one of these principles landed with weight, share it with someone who needs it. Leave a comment telling me which pillar struck you the hardest. I read every single one. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Because this is just the beginning of what we're building here together. I'll see you in the next one.